Welcome to Unit 2, Lesson 5. We're going to be practicing vocabulary using academic and discipline words and context and word parts. So today we're focusing on one of the most powerful tools in reading and writing, which is our vocabulary. Having a strong vocabulary doesn't just help us sound smart, it helps us understand what we're reading and expressing ourselves clearly. So in nonfiction and argument writing, you're often going to see academic words like analyze, interpret, evaluate. And then we're going to see discipline-specific terms like rhetoric, claim, evidence, counter-argument. We're also going to practice using context clues and word parts like root, prefixes, suffixes, things like that, so that we can figure out what the meanings are without looking up the word. And by the end of this lesson, you're going to have some strategies to unlock word meanings on your own. So there are two major types of vocabulary that we use we want to focus on in high school reading and writing. And the first is academic vocabulary. These are words that appear across subjects, and it helps us understand instructions and prompts and texts. These are going to be words like analyze, interpret, justify, evaluate. And then the second thing is discipline-specific vocabulary, which is going to belong to certain subjects. So for example, in ELA, we use words like rhetoric, ethos, counterclaim, citation. And in science, we might see hypothesis or variable. So recognizing which kind of word you're dealing with is going to help you choose the right strategy to understand or to use it. So here's just a few examples of each type. Academic words are general skills that we apply across all subjects, like words like analyze, interpret, or justify. Discipline-specific words are unique to a topic. So in our argument and rhetoric unit, words like ethos, pathos, logos, counterclaim, rebuttal, those are going to be essential. And as you're continuing reading nonfiction, keep track of these terms in a notebook or a digital word log, knowing how to use them correctly, and that's going to make your writing sound a little bit more confident and academic. So when we encounter an unfamiliar word, we don't immediately reach for a dictionary. Instead, we can use some context clues. So we want to look at the words and the sentences around it. There's four main types of context clues. The definition clues, this is where an author defines the word directly. We may see a synonym or a restatement clue, which is like restating the meaning in different words. We might see a contrast or an antonym. Those types of clues give us an opposite word to show meaning. And then we have inference clues, where we can make an educated guess based on the situation or the tone of the writing. And these clues are going to help us to decode meaning naturally while we're reading. So let's look at some of these context clues in action. So example 1, the arid desert received very little rainfall. The word very little rainfall defines arid, so that's a definition clue. In example 2, they said, unlike his gregarious brother, Mark preferred solitude. The contrast between gregarious and solitude gives us a contrast clue. Gregarious must mean sociable or outgoing because it's the opposite of solitude. And then example 3 says the scientist made a hypothesis or educated guess. So the phrase or educated guess is a restatement clue. So we want to pay attention to punctuation, commas, dashes, parentheses. All of this is signaling definition. And another powerful way to understand new words is by breaking them into word parts. So a prefix comes before the root word and it changes the meaning. So for example, un. So when we put un in front of a word, un means not. So unfair means not fair. A root is the base part of the word that carries the main idea. Like bio means life in biology. So that's the root. Unfair, the root word would be fair. Okay, it's the base part of the word. A suffix comes at the end and it changes the word's function. So if I put ist or ist, meaning one who does, after a word, I could say after science, I could say scientist. And it changes the word to mean one who does science. So here's some common high frequency prefixes, roots, and suffixes that you're going to see across subjects. And if you remember that bio means life and logy means study of, then you instantly know that biology means the study of life. So the more that you practice with these parts, the faster you're going to recognize patterns and unfamiliar words. So encourage yourself to jot down any unfamiliar roots as you're encountering them, because they're going to show up again and again. Anti means against, like antibiotic means against bacteria. Pre means before, so preview means to see before. Sub means under, so submarine, underwater. Bio means life, so biology means the study of life. Tele means far, so television, viewing from far away. Logy, the study of. Psychology, study of the mind. And if I add ist to the end of the word, it means one who does. So activist means one who acts or advocates. All right, now let's do some practice. Sentence 1 here, the speaker's argument was illogical based on emotion rather than reason. So the sentence says that the argument was illogical. So the prefix ill means not. And context tells us that it's based on emotion rather than reason. So illogical means not reasonable. Sentence number 2, many readers found the essay unsubstantiated, lacking credible evidence. So the word unsubstantiated, the prefix un means not. And the context of the sentence says it was lacking credible evidence. So unsubstantiated means unsupported or unproven. And then sentence number 3, the writer's tone was benevolent, expressing kindness towards her critics. The writer's tone was benevolent. All right, so the root bene means good or kind. So benevolent means kind or charitable. Context and word parts are going to work together to make the meaning clear. So now we want to apply what we've learned by using some key academic and argument vocabulary in sentences of our own. So for example, I might say in his speech, King carefully analyzes the moral contradictions of segregation. The author's evidence helps justify her argument about environmental reform. Your goal is to demonstrate not just memorization, but real understanding using words naturally in your own reasoning and analysis. So you're going to write one sentence using each of these words: analyze, interpret, justify, counterclaim, and rebuttal. Make sure you're using proper context to show that you really understand what they mean. And before we close, I want you to reflect on which vocabulary strategy helps you most. Do you rely more on context clues or word parts? Think about which new academic or discipline-specific words you can intentionally use in your next essay. And then finally, I want you to set a small, realistic goal, like learning 5 new subject-specific words each week. Building vocabulary is a lifelong skill, and the more words that you master, the clearer and more persuasive your communication becomes.